We're talking about how new mothers are able to return to their jobs and still manage to continue breastfeeding. Cecilia Worth is a working mom, and she runs a parent education center in Woodstock, New York. She also wrote the book, Breastfeeding Basics. And joining us also is Harriet Miller. Harriet's son, Mark, is sleeping as we speak. He's 5.5 months old, and Harriet recently returned to her teaching job. And Nancy Herman Sorgan. Nancy is holding her 7-week-old daughter, Aaliyah, and she's breastfeeding at this moment. But Nancy has not yet returned to work, but it will happen soon. Harriet, I think everyone wonders how you manage this because of all the emotion involved. What were you feeling, and how's it working for you?
It's working real well. I didn't think it would in the beginning. I had misgivings about whether he would be, how he would be with another adult, and how he would be with a bottle, you know, while I was gone. And it's working out real well. It turned out real well.
So, but was a lot of the emotion just not wanting to give him up for those hours?
That's exactly right. That's just it.
How are you supplementing? I mean, are you taking the breast milk and actually giving it to him?
Yeah, I'm doing hand expression of milk at work, and it takes about a half hour, and I bottle the milk and refrigerate it for him for a bottle for the next day.
Cecilia, what is hand expression?
Hand expression is sort of like milking yourself. It's using your hands in a very specific way to stimulate the nerve endings behind the nipple on the breast so that the milk will let down and come through. All right. And it's a skill. It takes a while to learn.
It does. In fact, Nancy, you said you tried it and it was difficult.
Right. I haven't been able to do it successfully, and I have used the pump, and that's been real good for me.
But does a lot of what Harriet said she felt before she went back to work sound familiar to you?
Sure, that definitely applies to my situation. I'm just, I haven't gone back yet. I will be going back full-time when she's 6 months old, and I just don't know how that's going to be for the two of us.
You mean you're worried about separating?
I'm worried about separating. I'm worried how it will be for her and my husband, and how it will be for me at work, wondering how she is with my husband at home. And
is this the story that every mother gives you, Cecilia, when they come to see you?
I think it's very hard. I think when you're pregnant, you have wonderful ideas about this baby sleeping all the time and being very quiet, and you can just sort of get to know the situation in a month and dash off to work. Realistically, it takes about 3 months minimum to get used to yourself as a mother, to get used to the baby, to feel yourself as a family, and to establish a milk supply.
How about the options? You say it's really important to explore all of those. What do you mean?
Well, I think we're talking about what's the mother going to do in terms of feeding the baby when she's at work. Is she going to bring the baby to work and feed the baby there? Will she hand express the way Harriet does, or in some way get the milk out at work, bring it home? Will she forget milk production entirely during that time and have the baby either drink breast milk that she's expressed during her home hours, or formula? There are a lot of options.
Or the pump. The pump is an option too, and there's one here. Are there good pumps and bad pumps?
There are a couple of kinds of pumps that are out that can be used by hand. One looks kind of like a bicycle horn with a big rubber bulb and an open end, and that works badly. There are a couple like this, basically without the bottle. This is a new idea some brilliant person came up with, and it works by this part coming out and sucking the milk out, and it really seems to be very successful.
You say the body is just an amazing thing. Will the breast stop producing when you don't want it to?
Yeah, it really is fantastic. I have great respect and admiration for the body. If your breasts need a good 3 days minimum to get the message that you want more or less milk. And they'll produce the supply and demand idea. They'll produce more if you need more at particular times of day. They'll cut back if you need to cut back. When babies start sleeping through the night, the breasts stop producing milk at night. And the same can happen when the mother's at work.
Harriet, is there any discomfort associated with the first few days? Would women get discouraged if the breasts start to hurt because either you're not hand pumping correctly, or you're just in the learning stages? Did that happen to you?
The first few days of his birth.
Well, the first few days after you left him, when you were making this separation.
No, it wasn't a difficult thing for me. It just wasn't. I guess I didn't have a hard time breastfeeding him in the beginning. He sucked really well, you know, and it just wasn't a difficult thing for me to do to start with.
How about you, Nancy?
Well, one concern I have is what Harriet talked about when she went back to work, she said it took you about half hour to
Yeah,
pump.
it takes a while.
Now, when I go back to work part-time, at first, I don't know how I'm going to take a half an hour out to pump. So I don't know where that's going to leave me for that feeding.
But that brings up the whole issue of women feeling uncomfortable, having to even deal with breast milk in any way while they're at work. What do you suggest?
Well, you know, one thing that you mentioned about discomfort, if a mother does decide to stop nursing when she's at work or to stop hand expressing, she may have physical discomfort when she's at work. I think the ideal is to, in advance, plan and start working with changing the milk supply well before you go back to work. And when you're changing from breast to formula, or to bottle, I should say, to allow a good 7 to 10 days for each change. If you're skipping 2 feedings at work, then to set that up a good 10 days in advance for first feeding, and then go on to the next feeding. In other words, time, planning and time.
Time, and is it a good idea for mom to have the first bottle feeding rather than the caregiver? Kind of supervise that change. What, Harriet?
I've never given my baby a bottle.
You
ever.
haven't?
No.
Well, when you,
No.
well, I don't understand, because then if you store this milk, how do you give it to him?
Well, the sitter gives it to the
Oh,
woman
the
that I have sitting with
But
him.
that's what I mean. Did you start it?
No.
No.
I didn't. I just never had to have anything to do with that. She gave it to him as a separate person. Also, my husband has given him a bottle. So he's associated with a bottle with 2 other people in his
And
life.
the breast
and the
with
breast
you.
with me. That's
Which
all.
brings up the whole idea of, it's really not so much the supplementing as just taking this child off your breast and severing this connection. Is that a big part of it for you, Nancy?
Yeah, it is. It is a big part. I know for myself, she won't take a bottle from me. She will from my husband, but she won't. I've tried to give her some water, but she won't. And she just, instinctively, she just knows that she can get something better from me.
Babies are amazing. Harriet, what advice would you give to Nancy?
I would just say that whatever your concerns are, it'll work out. You know, no matter what, it's going to work out. And if you're worried about leaving her, when you get back from work, you can just nurse her again, and everything will be the same way all over again. It'll work out, definitely. It's got to.
Cecilia, do you have
It's good to
advice?
know.
Yeah.
Harriet said what I was going to say. The severing that you feel when you go to work and have to leave your baby, you can get some of that back when you come home and sit down and nurse.
And it probably, did you feel better too, just about maybe going on to work? And was it a relief in a way too?
Yeah, I really chose to go back to work because when I get back into the house, I do nurse him, and it's coming back with a fresh, you know, I'm more at ease coming back to him. I haven't had the day with him, and I'm not all, you know, upset with him, and he's just a lot of fun to be with when I get back.
So then to all of these stages, there is some good. It's a matter of us exploring it and finding it and talking about it. Great to meet you, Nancy. Lots of luck with your return to work and with Aaliyah. And maybe next time Mark won't be sleeping. Good luck to him, Harriet, and to you. Thanks, Cecilia. We'll be right back.